Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and today we're going to go over energy. What does it mean to see or feel someone's energy? This is really important because people don't realize that today's actions will provide an energy in the future, in the long-term future. Okay? So short-term, long-term future benefits. But when you take action today, you don't see the energy that that's causing. That energy is going to manifest in the future. So I completely understand why people don't connect energy to actions directly because it's not that obvious. Energy gets built with momentum. It's like a snowball, you know? Whoever lives in the very snow area knows very easy to make a snowball. You just take a small, tiny ball and then you wrap it in more snow and then you just roll it, roll it, roll it until it becomes a gigantic snow. So energy works the exact same way. It starts low and then like a ball, you have to roll it. You roll it, you roll it, you make it bigger. And just like a snowball, what happens if suddenly the weather goes warm or I throw a match of fire in my snowball? Immediately it melts. The months and months it took me to create this snowball has immediately melted within a second. So that's how energy works. You know, it's funny to compare it to that, but that's what it is. It takes a very long time to build and like seconds to shatter. And this is why, people have low energy. Because once you have low energy, it's hard to go back up again. It's definitely possible, we're species that adjust. So, but however, we keep going down, then we go up, we keep going down, we go up. So this fluctuation is what wears on our body. So I want to explain energy today. I want to take my time and explain energy because this is really important. And I can see a lot of people don't understand how energy works, but it's normal because it's all about karma, right? So the way I lived my life the first 20 years didn't give me karma in my first 20 years, right? It gave me karma like from the momentum. Like let's say 0 to 20, I acted a certain way. I felt that action, the results of my action when I was, let's say, 25, right? So 20 years of karma, I felt it when I was 25, where I was in the energy ball, let's say. So it takes a long time for me to clean up the energy from 0 to 20. I had to work like almost another 20 years just to clean up. So 0 to 20, I had karma built into my aura because as soon as you build in karma, it goes into your aura. It's like Equifax, right? Or the credit bureau or the Akashic record. Everything you do is recorded within your aura. So this is why it's important to understand how energy works and how momentum works through time. So 0 to 20, I accumulated bad karma. It took me from 20 to, let's say, 40 to clean it up. It took me 20 years to clean up my first 20 years of karma. So this is why I understand energy. And this is why I can explain it. But I could have never explained it in the first 20 years because I was in it. I thought, going to do some volunteer work, I was going to get some brownie points, or going to people and giving, compliments was going to give me brownie points. No. This is momentum with time, It's not that simple. So I want to explain energy. So again, the best way to understand humans, and this is why to me, pure human is very important, because let's say if you're half cyborg, right? The energy that's emanating out of you is busy now fighting off the parts that you have put into yourself. Like, as an example, when I first moved to Orange County, you had commercials on the radio, about breast implants. You buy one breast, you get the other one free. Like, I'm not even joking, just like a pizza commercial. And when I say pizza, I don't mean little boy pizzas. I don't want the certain types of people getting excited here. I mean real pizza. You buy a pizza, you get a second one free. The one with the dough and the marinara sauce and the cheese. So obviously, half of my girlfriends had breast implants. Like, I knew 3 girls in Montreal that had it, but when I moved here, half of my girlfriends had it. And one of them, I remember it was recent, so I asked her, how is it? Not only they cut you down and cut you and put that thing in, the silicone, but I was asking, like, how does it feel? First, she told me it's pressure on her back. And second, she told me she had to go back to the doctor in the beginning because there's blood clot. Like, you have blood clot that creates around the breast, because the breast is trying to push away the silicone, but it can't push away the silicone because the silicone is now inside the breast, so there's nowhere to go. So the breast is constantly fighting the silicone, trying to push it out. It can't, so it covers itself and it creates these blood clots. And she had to go back to the doctor, and what he would squeeze it. He would literally take her, breasts and squeeze the blood clots and open it. And she had to do this for about 6 months. And then after that, the breast gives up, like it can't do anything. So it gives up. It lives with the silicone in a miserable way. So when you do things like that to your body, I'm not judging, if you're insecure and you want bigger breasts, if you have, like, say, certain body parts that you want to reduce, that's up to certain people. But I just want you to understand, and I want the people doing these surgeries to understand that when you're injecting into your face and your face is, swollen like that, that is a outside environment that you're putting in your body. So your body's constantly trying to fight it off. So this is why that we're not only like light bulbs, you have 50 watts, 100 watts, 1,000 watts, let's say. So it's not just the wattage. Does it flicker? Someone that's physically unhealthy, the light's gonna flicker. It can't just be like a super powerful beaming light, right? It's gonna flicker. So you want to take that into consideration. What is your wattage as a human being? And are you constantly flickering, Because you can flicker for many reasons: bad health, stress, I haven't slept well, bad intentions, stuff. There's many reasons why people flicker. And you can tell in someone's aura if they're flickering or not, I can, but like I said, it took me a long time to get to this level. So 2 important things: what is your wattage, and are you flickering or not as a being? So again, you're flickering if you have outside body, body parts. Like, I'm not saying you needed a kidney and you replaced your kidney. That's wonderful, Or let's say, God forbid, you broke your knee and then you had to put screws, It is what it is. I'm just talking about people that voluntarily go and put foreign things in their bodies when they are perfectly healthy. So again, it's an option, but you're dimming your aura. You are dimming it. You're dimming it because now your body has to focus on an outside agent that it's constantly, busy fighting. So, to each your own. But to me, that's what I notice. I notice that it's best at its purest form. And this is why, to me, pure humans are really important. So the purer you are physically, the better. So now, in the energy side of things, how does energy work? Energy is created when the baby is created. Let's say the father and the mother creates the baby, or it's created in a lab. It doesn't matter how it's created. But when the baby is created, what is that energy? What's the environment? If it's created in super, super loving energy, like, of course, it's going to have an incredible wattage. If it's created in the middle of, let's say, chaos and very, let's say, violent situation, the fetus is going to be created, at a lower wattage. It's normal, it's not going to have the advantage of beaming so much because of the environment. So then once the fetus is created, how is the 9 months? Is the mother smoking cigarettes? Is she drinking alcohol, like, vodka every day? Like, what's happening, So if, let's say, the mother is protecting the baby and her mental health and her physical health, then the 9 months is wonderful, is the maximum capacity for this fetus to grow at its fullest potential, at its fullest wattage. When I say fullest potential, I don't mean, the child is going to become an astronaut or a doctor, I mean the wattage, the fullest potential of a beaming light. So, the person can be unemployed, but if they're super happy, that to me is beaming at your fullest potential. So it's not the outside world, it's how the person is feeling on the inside. So once the baby's born, how's the environment? Are they being jabbed by the doctor and pulled away by the mother, like from the mother? Like, what's happening? Is the baby premature, almost died, suffocating, or was it an easy birth? Like these things have an impact on the energy. So once the child is born, then you have till the age of 7, right? We've studied this in many, in the Gene Keys and the I Ching, like in a lot of cycle-oriented books, you have the 7-year cycle. So for the child is the 7 years, 0 to 7, you have the programming. So that sets your wattage. So by 7, you have a fixed wattage. So some people have like 50 wattage because they had like a horrible time up to, 7. So they have a very low wattage, and now they have to work on that wattage. That's pretty much what it is. So from the age of 7 to, until you die, you're working on that wattage. So if you're kicked off with a wonderful wattage of 1,000 when you're 7 years old, that doesn't mean you're going to hit 2,000 when you're 14. Something horrible can happen to that child at age, 13, at age 16. And that child goes from 1,000 wattage to 2 wattage, So it's not because the child start off, at the age of 7 with 1,000 wattage, that child at the age of 50, they're going to blow everybody away. No, not necessarily. This is why the journey is very important. And like I said, the one that was, at 50 wattage at the age of 7 can wind up with 10,000 wattage at the age of 50 if they make the right choices, So this is what I want to get at. From the age of 7 to now, what happens to us? We go to school, we're told what to do, we go into a system, right? So we're constantly controlled. We're constantly stressed out. Like I remember I was stressed out in school, exams, midterms, you can't fail. Then high school finishes, you have to go to college finishes, you have to go to university. Now, people have to hit master's degree. I heard that undergrad is not even enough anymore, So this is a lot of stress. I remember I couldn't wait to be done with school and start my life, And I remember that was a huge milestone for me because I was just constantly stressed out. School is very stressing, very, very stressing. It's competition. It's constantly learning. It's very difficult to me. In my opinion, school for a child is a lot of pressure. And I've seen children in Asia, after school, they go to tutoring. They go to bed at 10. Like it's no life for a child, to have that kind of stress. And honestly, it's really not. No child should have, what do you want to be when you grow up at the age of 5? Don't ask that at the age of 5. Like, come on. They can say astronaut, but some parents are like, no, you got to decide, you're almost like starting school. You got to decide what you want to be, So that's a incredible pressure on the child. The child should be running after balls and dolls, but whatever. So as you can see, the system is dimming our lights right off the bat. And the parents and the way we're brought up and the environment, so everything counts. Everything counts, and your own karma. Okay? So how do we become these powerful, pure, super beaming lights? First, go over your past life to whomever it calls you. So if it calls you, go check it out. Go check out your past life and see exactly who you were, how you died, what you did, what was your mission. This helps clear a lot from your aura. Because what it is, it's heaviness, right? It's heaviness. Like first, there's no awareness. So you want awareness. So how do you gain awareness? By studying yourself. And then that heaviness becomes lighter. Because when it's heavy, it's because you don't know who you are. So it's super heavy. It's constantly reminding you that you don't know who you are. You don't know what you like. You don't know where you belong. Like Some people believe it's archons, and it can just be like your subconscious, playing games with you and constantly reminding you how confused you are, right? So when you increase your awareness, that goes away. And when that goes away, you become lighter. Your light bulb is beaming and not flickering, right? So past lives. Then you study your childhood. Now, like I said, how were you born? How was your, while you were in the fetus? How was it? How was your parents when you were up to 7? Like, study yourself, right? And then after the age of 7, it's pretty much what you do or what happens to you. Okay? So there's certain things that's out of your control when it happens to you. But a lot of things are in your control. Like if you know that something's not ethical, you don't do it. Because you know that if you do something unethical, even if no one watches, and no one sees, you know you've done it. And that in itself is enough to be in your conscious, eating you up because you've placed it there. You voluntarily placed it there. So let's say I'm somebody, that's why I refuse to lie. When you don't lie, you're so light. I don't have to remember anything ever. I never have to remember anything because I never lie. So if I say something and it hurts somebody, well, it is what it is. I rather that than having to lie and then the person stays in my life, but then I have that eating me up in my subconscious, right? I don't have anything eating me up in my subconscious, and that is why I am so powerful. Imagine having nothing eating you up in your subconscious for 20 years. Now that's power, my friends. And this is what I want to explain today. Because when you have nothing wrong in your Akashic record or in your Equifax, I've embarrassed myself. Yeah, absolutely. I've gotten drunk and said the wrong things, but embarrassing myself is not going into the Akashic record and dimming my light. Embarrassing myself it just means I don't want to hang out with those people again because they've seen me at my worst when I was, let's say, wasted or something, right? Like that has happened where I've said stupid things while I was drunk. But the Akashic record is intention. If you do something wrong and you don't know it's wrong, that doesn't go against against you, it doesn't dim your light because you had no idea. But trust me, it just takes one time. Then if you do it a second time, then it goes into your record, So you're constantly carrying this record with you, right? So you don't want to add on to I'm going to lie again and I'm going to lie to this person. I'm going to lie for that job and I'm going to lie and I'm just keep piling the darkness because that's what it is. Every time someone betrays, every time someone lies, someone manipulates, someone plays tricks or whatever, anything that's bad intention or not for the benefit of the person, it all goes into your and then you have to clean it up. That's what karma is. That's what karma is. It's voluntarily putting things onto our aura and then we're carrying it with us. And that's the fight for consciousness. That's how they get your consciousness, right? They get you through your consciousness. They know you can be vibing at 1,000 watt. But let's say there's a picture of me and let's say a underage child, right? That's all it takes. A picture of me in a compromising position with an underage child. It doesn't even mean that I've done it. They just need to create that, let's say, right? Hey, that's not me. I never did that, right? But let's say something like that now goes out into the world. That is enough to ruin someone's consciousness. Deflate somebody that has integrity, that has never cheated or betrayed or lied or whatever. Just do that and you'll ruin their consciousness. That's what the fight of consciousness is. So if you want to increase your wattage, you have to have a clear conscience. And then that's what I mean by pure humans. Your conscience has to be clear, right? So look at it this way. I'm a singer and I'm singing about everything that I want, but I cannot sing about the dark forces because that's part of the contract. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But imagine now I take my time and I sing my heart out every day. And then I get discovered through YouTube. And then I really blow up through my pure talents without ever signing anything, without ever owing anyone anything, right? Now that's real power. Now, not only that I can sing about anything I want, I can sing about the dark forces, I can sing about aliens, I can sing about anything I want. Now that's power. Now that's wattage, right? Now you're wadding at like 5,000 because there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling. Versus, oh, let me take this shortcut. It's not so bad, right? I can still sing, I can still do what I want, but now I'm confined. And now as a result, I'll never reach 5,000 watts. You can't. You're confined. As soon as you hit 3,000, they're gonna lower your wattage. Trust me. Now you're vibrating way too high, way too high. So no matter what, they have control. No matter what, they have control. So trust me when I tell you, the person that's gonna go out there and be the celebrity, the singer, the one singer we're gonna have that's not going to be binded to these lizards, trust me, that singer is going to be powerful. Because there's no stopping that singer. Not even the dark entities can give that singer a song because the light has them. When you're wadding at, let's say, 10,000 watts, trust me, nothing can latch on you. Nothing. The only thing that can latch on you is like an angel that's like blasting light from above. So trust me, when you have that, there's no archons, nothing around you. And that's what pure humans, pure light, and pure consciousness means. However, you can't be dirty. Someone that constantly lies or constantly betrays or constantly manipulates or constantly plays games or constantly, like those people, there's no way they can vibe like that. No way, because they're too dirty. They have to clean up their karma for every lie, because you remember, every time you've lied, you have to remember. Every time you lie, you have to remember to whom you lied, how did you lie, So look at it this way. I'm not saying I'm clean. I had a girlfriend a long time ago that was stuck in San Diego with a guy friend, and they needed gas. And by the time we found out, our car and our ride was already in Orange County. So I had drunk. I couldn't take the car and go back to San Diego to help them. I couldn't. I was not in a physical condition to do it. I couldn't. So this was something out of my control. Okay? I had two friends in need. They were stuck on the side of the road in San Diego, ran out of gas, and I couldn't go help them. And also, I couldn't sleep. I remember that night I didn't sleep at all because I was so worried. I'm like, oh my God, are they going to make it? They were supposed to come to Orange County as well. They didn't make it. Our cars made it. Their car didn't make it because they ran out of gas. Anyways, we should have followed each other. But like I said, we had gone clubbing. Everyone was drinking. My driver was designated. And unfortunately, when I got home, I couldn't take the car and go back and save them. I couldn't. And nor should I have, because I could have put my life at risk. And listen, if something happens to me, I can't save anybody, So this is why sometimes it might have looked selfish what I did. However, but if I'm in no condition to help somebody, I'm in no condition to help somebody, But like I said, that's the only thing that's been eating me up. And I have no reason to feel bad, It was out of my control. But I couldn't sleep that night, so it's not like I went to bed while there was, they ended up calling AAA and getting help. But it took a long time. It took a long time, and they were in no condition to wait that long on the side of the highway, So I could have made it to San Diego faster than the AAA. But anyways, I don't beat myself to it anymore, And they have forgiven me. They told me, we forgive you. It's okay, we understand. But for some reason, I have trouble forgiving myself. And that's the only thing that eats me up. And I'm hoping that today, by talking about it, I can finally release it. But because I know I couldn't do anything. But again, I still left them on this. Like, I remember she was crying on the phone. She's like, help me. I was like, I couldn't help. I at some point I had to hang up because I didn't know how to control the conversation. And I remember I had some tests for the next day. I was studying some financial test for work. Anyways, I don't even want to get to that, but I had an exam. Like I couldn't be shooken up by what was happening, you know? So anyways, I had to no choice but to brush it off, and she was crying and I had no choice but to hang up. So I just remember that memory, and I've tried to erase it. Like from 0 to 20, I've erased it. This happened between 20 and 40. You know, this happened with my girlfriends in Orange County. So anyways, I have no reason to feel bad. No reason. But that, it's still in my aura, because I maybe like something, maybe I could have done something, you know, maybe I could have, if we didn't drive so fast, maybe, you know, like I'm just constantly, but you see, it's ridiculous. I know I can be vibing more. I know I can be vibing more if it wasn't for that memory, you know, but I can't erase it. It's very difficult, even if I've tried to process it and understand it, you know, something that did like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Something like that. So imagine you do something really bad at someone else, like that's going to eat you up. Trust me when I tell you, your subconscious is going to remind you, remember when you betrayed this person and you left them to die on the street? Trust me, that's something, if someone does that, that is something you can't forget. Your aura is going to remind you on a daily basis, subconsciously, not like every day. You look at the mirror and remember what you did. No. Subconsciously, it's going to be in your aura. So this is how I read energy, you know? So a trick for whoever that wants to read energy, because I can't say I physically see energy. I don't physically see it. I feel it. So how does one vibe at, let's say, 5,000 watts instead of just 10 watts, right? The person vibing at 10 watts is very heavy. You see it in their face. You see it in their grins, you know, like you see it in the body language. Because body language is very important, you know. When someone's in fear, like I can feel that. If someone doesn't want to talk to me because they're freaking out, I can feel that, you know. So it's normal. You can feel the other person's aura. So if someone is very heavy because of, you know, a horrible Akashic record, a horrible, you know, resume of the things that they know they've done, maybe not the world, but they know they've done it, because I'm telling you, it'll remind you until you die what you did. So they're very heavy. You know, they shrink and they're dark and they're, you know, they're grim. And this is why certain people vibe and they look so young when they're 40, you know, and some people look horrible when they're 40. It's because how do you maintain yourself? How do you maintain your vibe, right? So again, that's heaviness. Now the opposite. What is someone that's vibing so much? And trust me, that's how I know these people. I met a girl within 10 minutes. I asked her to stay with me for a whole month. I didn't even know this girl. All it took is 10 minutes, and the environment I knew, because I knew if this doctor knew this girl, because this doctor he's one of my favorite doctors, you know. So if he hangs out with her, then, you know, she's for sure special. So already by reference, I knew I was in a good environment. And after talking to her for just 10 minutes, I told her, come over. Here's the key to my house. Here's this, here's that. I had no, here's the fridge. Do whatever you want. I had no problem. 10 minutes. All it took is 10 minutes. Why? Her vibe. Incredible. First, I knew she didn't lie about anything. Because trust me, somebody that doesn't lie, they have a crystal clear aura. Crystal clear. They also are very light. You know, people that vibe a lot is very light. So you see it in the body language, right? They're smiling. They're not smirking. You know, be careful with the people that just smirk, right? Those, you got to watch out. So, but these ones are smiling. They're happy and they're light and they don't have to remember, you know, what did I say like 2 seconds ago? No. They're very, very nonchalant, very light, just like a child. Just like a child. Trust me, those are the ones that vibe 5,000. If someone is in the corner like this, they're not vibing at 5,000. I can assure you that much. But the person sitting like this and be like, hey, what are we studying today? You know? Amazing. Because they're always up for it. They're so in love with light because they're not dimmed, right? They're pumping, they're not flickering, right? They're wanting so much and pumping, you know. So here are my truther friends. My truther friends are such light people. Why? Because they know the truth about everything. And trust me, truthers don't lie. They don't lie. Truthers cannot be fake. Truthers cannot lie. This is why I love truther friends. First, I find out what really is happening in the world. And second, trust me, these people are so solid. My truther friends are vibing at like a million. like because of the good karma. You know, when you sacrifice and you stay home and study about what really the Illuminati is doing instead of going and partying, right? These are all sacrifices. These are all building towards the momentum of your energy, you know? And when you're doing good things like that all the time, like these people, I'm telling you, they're vibing. They're vibing. This is why I don't need to hang out with them every day. I hang out with them, let's say once a month, and I'm good. I'm good. That they're constantly vibing at 5,000 watts because they don't care. They don't care. They're not afraid of anything. They're not afraid of dying. They're not afraid of getting sick. They're not afraid of anything because they know that nothing can happen to them. They're so elevated in their aura that the entities are too low vibration to get to them. Too low vibration. They just can't. They're too far. But if someone's always stressed out and, oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh my God, my husband. Oh my God, my wife. Oh my God, my child. You know, these are all stress. So when you have stress like that, you can't be vibing like, you know, you can't. And that's what happens. Every person has a potential to vibe, let's say 5,000, right? So if they're vibing at 50 watt, what do you think happens with the difference? You know, that's a difference. That's a potential lost. That's a potential where, you know, you're feeding another entity with, you know, that should have gone to you. It should have gone to you. Everyone should be vibing at 5,000 all the time, right? But you can't because we take shortcuts, because we sell our soul, because we lie, we cheat, we betray, you know, and then we think nobody sees, but trust me, it's all piling up. It's all piling up. You know, and you can do so much great work. You can be vibing at 5,000, right? I can be vibing at 5,000 watts. All it takes is me getting too much and doing something unethical. That's all it takes. One time. And that memory, that exposure, that reputation that got affected, that is enough to kick me instantly from 5,000 watt to 50 watt. Instantly. I'm going to go from 5,000 to 50. Instantly. Because it's like the snowball. You take the snowball, it takes a long time to build. But you throw a fire into the snowball, the whole thing melts. So years and years and years of your reputation building, your integrity, gone in a second. And this is how they do it, you know. This is how they do it. They, you know, catch you in compromising positions, especially these businessmen. And they don't know these businessmen. I've been to these business parties. Listen, you go into a room, there's like 500 drunk people, you know, like it's sad to say. They had to eliminate their Christmas parties entirely because there were stories like, you know, really bad stories happening after people drinking, you know. So when I say people drinking and when we're having a good time, I'm talking about, you know, happy hour, after work you go for a glass of wine, you know, that's what I mean. I don't mean Christmas parties where it's unlimited tequila, vodka, rum, you know, and everyone's going crazy. Why are they going crazy, you know? They're going crazy because they don't want to be who they are. Trust me, when you love your life, you're not trying to get wasted. You know, when you love your life, you don't do psychedelics to leave this planet. You know, you do it to learn. You do it to add and not take away. So people that, you know, drink to the point where they black out, there's an underlying issue, you know, and that happens a lot in companies. So then they black out there next to somebody, and then the, you know, the whole company knows. And once the whole company knows, it's over. There goes your 5,000 watts. And now you're going to be like oozing at 2 watts. Trust me, you're oozing at that level. You're, you know, barely putting energy out because you're so embarrassed. You know, you got to go to work every day now. Everyone's looking at you like, we all know what you did. That's why. A fight for consciousness, they're fighting our consciousness. That's what they're doing. The word says it. They're fighting for our consciousness. So they're fighting for our physical, don't let them. They're fighting for our mental, don't let them, you know, control your mind, go meditate, whatever, right? But when they're fighting for your consciousness, that's what it is. Don't let them affect your consciousness. So I hope you understand the energy. Like I wish I can explain it more concrete, how to read people's energy. But at the end of the day, it's the whole package. It's first the body language. Second, it's like how light are they? Because they can also fake the lightness. You can pretend you're super light, but I would still catch it. But I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't. So it's not that easy. But with time, you'll see somebody that has never lied. They're just so light. They're very light because they have nothing to hide, right? That in itself is very light. But somebody that has lied for 10 years, trust me, that's heavy. Every single person they lied to, they remember. Every single person they lied to, that's an extra pair of eyes of observer that you have affected, that now has a bad record on you, whatever. All of this is important. However tiny it is, it affects, So it's like a bulletin at the end. It's a bulletin, it's a transcript. When you go to school, they give you your grades, So at the end of the day, what's your grade? And it's your vibe. So you can work on it, definitely. But it's easier to work on it when you've started, cleaning it up, not when you're constantly adding to it, right? So again, to each your own, but now that you understand energy, we're just like light bulb, okay? So you don't want to, just light at 50 watts. You want to light at 5,000 watts, So what makes you happy? What makes you turned on? What makes you turn on your passion? What kind of people do you like to hang out with? What kind of people, food you like to eat? All of this has an effect. And of course, don't get involved in the 7 deadly sins, So just keep vibing. And by not getting involved, you vibe. You don't flicker. You don't want to flicker. Trust me, in your subconscious, when it's dirty, you're flickering. You're flickering. When you have a stressful life, you're flickering. There's no way you can beaming when you have a stressful life and you're full of distractions. So again, light bulb, wattage, and power. Are you flickering or are you a steady, powerful light that cannot be dimmed? Okay? So this is energy for you. If you have any questions, put it in the comment below and I'll answer them. Thank you very much. And on to the next one. Ciao.